Accused of cheating by my boyfriend in front of his entire family, I had to fight for my truth and my future. I'm 7 months pregnant, and my life has taken a turn I never saw coming. I've been with Nathan for 2 years and 4 months, and I've never cheated on him, never even thought about it. But 4 days ago, at his family's 4th of July barbecue, in front of about 50 people, including his parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, and strangers, Nathan stood up, beer in hand, and declared that he was going to get a paternity test because he's tired of wondering if this baby is even his. According to him, I'm that type of girl. I'm sitting here now, in my childhood bedroom, trying to figure out how I went from picking out nursery furniture to being humiliated like this. Let me back up and explain everything, because I know how these things go. You need the full picture. 2.5 years ago, I met Nathan at my friend Rachel's birthday party. I've known Rachel since middle school, and she was turning 28, so she rented out a section of a bar downtown. Nathan was there because he knew Rachel's boyfriend, Mark, through some sports league they played in together. Nathan and I talked all night. He was funny, easy to talk to, and actually listened to what I said. A refreshing change from the guys I'd been with before. We exchanged numbers, went on our first date 2 weeks later, and the first 1.5 years was amazing. I really thought I had found the one. Nathan met my parents after about 6 months, and I met his family around the same time. His mom, Caroline, was always a little cold toward me, but Nathan explained that she was just like that with everyone, so I didn't take it personally. His dad, David, was quieter, but nice enough. His younger sister, Rachel, and I got along fine, nothing deep but friendly. Around 14 months into dating, Nathan and I moved in together. We got a 2-bedroom apartment in a nice area, split rent, and started building a life. It all seemed like a natural progression, and I thought we were solid. Then, I got pregnant. It wasn't planned, birth control doesn't always work, but here we are. When I told Nathan, he was shocked, but he said, "Okay, we can do this. We'll figure it out." For the next few weeks, he seemed genuinely excited. He was looking at baby names, talking about cribs, and he even told his family before I was ready because he was so excited. But then, something shifted. It started around the 3rd month. He began making small comments, asking who I was texting, wanting to know where I'd been, and why I hadn't responded to his texts right away. It didn't feel like care anymore, it felt like interrogation. I told myself it was just the stress of becoming a dad. I tried to reassure him, but it didn't help. I offered him access to my location on my phone, and he accepted. I thought it would ease his anxiety. It didn't. Around the 4th month, I found out about a group chat Nathan had with his friends. It was a typical guy thing, memes, sports, weekend plans, but one night, I accidentally saw a message that made my stomach drop. Nathan had told his friends that he wasn't sure if the baby was even his. He said he thought I was that type of girl, and the entire group had participated in a poll asking who they thought the real father was. There were options like my male coworkers and even Nathan's own brother, Luke. They all voted. I felt like my entire world had collapsed. It was one thing for Nathan to have doubts privately, but this? This was a public betrayal. I was devastated. When I confronted him, he made excuses. He said it wasn't serious, that it was just a joke. He claimed that guys talk like that. But I wasn't buying it. The truth was, he didn't trust me. And he couldn't even give me a single reason why, beyond vague feelings. I had never done anything to betray his trust, but he had already decided I was guilty. For the next few weeks, things were tense. Nathan apologized, eventually. He said he'd spoken to his friends and that he'd shut down the chat. He promised me it was just anxiety about becoming a dad, and that he was just reacting to stress. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But even with his apologies, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. I had been there for him through everything. I never gave him a reason to doubt me, but now, it felt like I was constantly fighting an invisible battle to prove my innocence. We went to one couples counseling session. It was awkward, but I thought it might be a step toward fixing things. Nathan started being more affectionate, coming to ultrasound appointments, holding my hand, trying to show he was committed. For a while, I thought maybe we were going to make it through this. But then came the 4th of July. Nathan's family throws a huge barbecue every year at his parents' house. They have a pool, a big backyard, and his mom, Caroline, always goes all out with the decorations and food. I had been to 3 of these BBQs before, and last year, I actually had fun. This year, though, everything felt off. When we arrived, Caroline barely acknowledged me, which wasn't like her. Rachel, his sister, kept looking at me, then whispering to her friends. I told myself I was being paranoid, that the group chat situation was just making me see things that weren't there. But I couldn't ignore the tension in the air. About 2 hours into the barbecue, after most people had eaten, Nathan stood up on the back porch steps, beer in hand, and announced that he had an important announcement. People gathered around, expecting a toast or something celebratory. I had no idea what was coming. He said he had been thinking a lot about honesty and family and that he wasn't going to let anyone make a fool of him. Then, with a look I'll never forget, he turned to me, standing there, 7 months pregnant, and said he was going to get a DNA test after the baby was born because he needed to know the truth about whether this baby was even his. He said it loud enough for everyone to hear, like I was a liar, like I was someone who had trapped him. For a moment, everything stopped. It felt like the whole world was staring at me. People were silent for a few seconds, and then his mom, Caroline, stood up and hugged him. Hugged him. And in front of everyone, she said, loud enough for me to hear, "I'm so proud of you for standing up for yourself and not letting her trap you like your father got trapped." I had no idea what that meant at first, but then I saw Nathan's dad, David, standing by the grill with a completely blank expression on his face. It was like no one even cared to ask why Nathan was making such an accusation. The silence was broken by Nathan's uncle, who started slow clapping. Like we were in some kind of movie. More people joined in, clapping and whispering, all of them thinking it was funny, humiliating me, making me the punchline of their twisted game. And Nathan stood there, looking proud, as though he had done something brave. My legs went numb. I couldn't move. I stood there, hands on my belly, surrounded by people who were laughing, clapping, and some who just stared. Caroline filmed it, apparently getting my reaction to send it to the family group chat. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to get away. I walked toward the house, trying to find a way out, but 3 of Nathan's friends, Justin, Bradford, and another guy, cornered me in the kitchen. They started calling me horrible names, telling me I had ruined Nathan's life. The girlfriends were laughing from the hallway like it was some kind of joke. I finally pushed past Bradford and ran out to my car. My hands were shaking so badly that I dropped my keys twice, but I managed to drive to my parents' house. I don't even remember the drive. When I got there, my mom opened the door, and I collapsed into her arms. My phone was vibrating non-stop. 33 unread messages from Nathan. The first few were angry, saying I embarrassed him by leaving. Then they shifted to confusion, asking why I wasn't responding, then to desperation, "Please just answer. We didn't mean it. I need to talk to you." And then came the messages from his mom, Caroline, telling me I should be ashamed of myself for lying to her son. The second one came yesterday, saying, "Stop being dramatic and come talk this out like an adult." I haven't responded. I don't know how to. How do you respond to someone who humiliated you in front of everyone they know? How do you even think about co-parenting with a man whose family thinks you're a trap? I don't know what to do. I'm exhausted. My baby is due in 2 months, and I'm supposed to be excited, planning the nursery, packing my hospital bag. Instead, I'm sitting here strategizing about DNA tests and how to protect myself from a toxic family that's already decided I'm the villain. The next few days after I posted my first update were a blur. I've never felt so emotionally drained in my entire life. Between the constant stream of messages from Nathan and his family, the comments from strangers online offering support and advice, and my own overwhelming emotions, I barely had time to process everything. But something clicked. I realized I had 2 choices. I could stay hidden at my parents' house, letting Nathan and his family twist the story however they wanted, or I could stand up for myself. I needed to face him, face the situation, and force him to explain himself to me directly, not through texts, where he could manipulate the narrative, but in person. I wasn't going to let him get away with this anymore. So, I sent him a simple message: "We need to talk, but it has to be in a neutral place, and I'm bringing my mom with me." He called me almost immediately, but I didn't answer. I wanted him to think about what he had done. I followed up with another message: "If you don't agree to these terms, we have nothing to discuss." It didn't take long for him to text back reluctantly. He tried to argue that it should just be the 2 of us, but I wasn't budging. He had made our business public, so now everyone had to be involved. He agreed. We decided to meet at a diner near my parents' house. My mom and I arrived first, and I could barely stomach the nervousness gnawing at my stomach. My hands were shaking, and I kept thinking about the humiliation I had suffered just days before. My mom, being the rock she always is, kept her hand on mine under the table, reminding me that I didn't owe Nathan any explanations. I hadn't done anything wrong. Nathan finally showed up, about 10 minutes late, which felt intentional. He started immediately with the same old speech about how I ran away, how I embarrassed him, how I didn't give him a chance to explain. He seemed determined to make it all about him. My mom, holding herself back, kept quiet for a while, but I could see her grip tightening on her napkin. She was ready to go for the jugular. When he finally finished his rant, I calmly asked him one simple question: what evidence do you have that I ever cheated on you? Not feelings, not vibes, actual proof. He fidgeted with the sugar packets on the table, unable to look me in the eye. He muttered that it wasn't about evidence, but patterns. When I pressed him, asking what patterns he was talking about, he said I'd been distant since getting pregnant. I pointed out that growing a human being inside my body had made me tired and nauseous, and that might affect my mood. He then mentioned that I was always on my phone, but I reminded him I had given him access to my location and passwords. He knew exactly who I was talking to at all times. Still, he couldn't answer me. He just kept saying it wasn't about proof, it was about how he felt. My heart sank. This man had decided, based purely on feelings, that I was guilty of something I never did. He had listened to gossip, to suspicions, to unfounded fears, and he was too stubborn to see that he was wrong. At that point, my mom spoke up. She asked him, very calmly, if he understood what he had done. Not just accusing me, but how he had publicly humiliated me, dragged me through the mud in front of his entire family. She asked him if he had any idea what it was like for me to stand there, pregnant, in front of 50 people, while everyone looked at me like I was a liar. Nathan got defensive. His voice rose a little as he tried to defend his family, but I could see that he was losing the argument. I pushed further. I asked him what his mom meant when she said she was proud of him for not letting me trap him like his father got trapped. I asked why his dad had looked so uncomfortable when she said that. Nathan got quiet, avoiding my eyes, until I pressed him again. Finally, he told me the truth. Caroline had convinced him that I was doing the same thing she did to David, trapping him with a pregnancy to keep him from leaving. Apparently, when Caroline had gotten pregnant with Nathan, she believed David was going to leave her, so she purposely got pregnant to keep him. Nathan had grown up watching his parents' miserable marriage, and his mother had spent years poisoning his mind, telling him that women like me were out to manipulate men the same way she had done. I was speechless. Caroline had projected her own toxic actions onto me from day one, and Nathan had let her. He had allowed her to manipulate him into believing that I was just like her, that I had an agenda, that I was trapping him in some sort of cruel scheme. I asked Nathan why he had believed her. Why he hadn't stopped to consider that maybe, just maybe, Caroline's own insecurities were clouding her judgment. He said he was confused, that there were too many voices in his ear. I asked him if he thought I had been raised to deceive him. If he really thought I was capable of that. He said no, but it was clear he had been so influenced by his mom's narrative that he couldn't even see how wrong he was. When I asked him what he was going to do about it, he said he wanted to make things right, but when I suggested that he go back to his family and tell them the truth, that he had been wrong about me, his face went pale. He didn't want to do that. He didn't want to make another scene. He wanted it to blow over. That was when I realized, Nathan hadn't learned a damn thing. I left that diner feeling more certain than ever that Nathan wasn't ready to fight for me, or for our child. He hadn't fixed anything, and he wasn't willing to make the public amends that would be required for me to even begin to trust him again. He tried to hug me when we left, but I stepped back. His hurt expression almost felt like an insult after everything he'd put me through. He wasn't just hurting because of me. He was hurting because his actions had consequences, and he wasn't ready to face them. The next few days were tense. Remy kept texting me, asking when we could talk again. He said he wanted to be at the birth, that he wanted to be involved. But he still hadn't made things right with anyone. He still hadn't fixed the damage he had done to my reputation, to my trust, to our family. He was hoping time would smooth things over, but I wasn't having it. His family wasn't just going to get a free pass after everything they'd done. And then, the final blow came. Caroline, his mother, asked to meet with me. She said she wanted to clear the air before the baby came. My gut reaction was to laugh, but at 8 months pregnant, laughing might lead to wetting myself, so I kept it in. This woman, the one who had humiliated me in front of his entire family, who had said I was trying to trap Nathan like she had trapped his father, now wanted to sit down with me like nothing had happened. I told Nathan, absolutely not. He insisted I meet her. Said I was being unreasonable, that I should be grateful for the chance to make things right. But how could I? How could I sit across from the woman who had orchestrated my humiliation and expect a peaceful conversation? I agreed to meet her only on the condition that Nathan would be there, my mom would be there, and it had to be in a public place where she couldn't pull any more stunts. He agreed, but I could tell he was frustrated. We met at a diner, and I sat across from Caroline, who looked as pristine as ever in her floral blouse and pearls. My mom and I arrived first, and my mom's grip on my hand under the table told me that she was ready for whatever came next. The awkward silence between Caroline and I could have been cut with a knife. After a few minutes, my mom went straight for the jugular. She asked Caroline, point blank, "What evidence do you have that I've ever cheated on your son?" Caroline stumbled through the usual excuses, intuition, mother's instinct, whatever nonsense she could pull out of thin air. She even said that women who trap men are usually calm because they've planned everything, while real mothers are nervous and scared. I was floored. This woman was literally accusing me of faking my pregnancy to trap her son because I wasn't acting nervous enough. That's when my mom lost it. She asked Caroline if the real reason she was so convinced I was trying to trap Nathan was because she had done exactly that to David, Nathan's father. There was a beat of silence before Caroline's face morphed from surprise to pure, unfiltered rage. Nathan's eyes darted between us, looking like he wanted to sink into the floor. He admitted that Caroline had told him, years ago, that she had gotten pregnant on purpose to keep David from leaving her. The room went dead silent. That was when I realized the full scope of the manipulation. Caroline had poisoned Nathan's mind with her own guilt and insecurities. She had projected her actions onto me from the very beginning because she couldn't accept that not every woman operated the way she did. The truth hit me like a ton of bricks. Nathan had spent the last 2 years letting his mother's narrative dictate his views on me and our relationship. I confronted Caroline. I told her that the only person at that table who had ever truly trapped anyone was her. That she had manipulated her way into a miserable marriage and had spent decades projecting her guilt onto me. Her face turned red, not from shame, but from blind fury. She turned to Nathan and demanded that he defend her. For the first time in his life, Nathan didn't immediately fold. He told his mother that she was out of line, that she had encouraged his suspicions when she should have been helping him think clearly. The look on Caroline's face as she realized her son was finally standing up to her was one I'll never forget. She stormed out of the restaurant, leaving us behind in the silence that followed. Nathan sat there, staring at the door, unsure of what to say. He apologized again, but I wasn't interested in his words anymore. I needed actions. I needed him to publicly correct everything he had done. But he wouldn't. He couldn't. A few days later, the DNA test results came back. 98% probability that Nathan was the father. I had arranged the test myself, not because Nathan wanted it, but because I wanted undeniable proof. I sent Nathan the results, and he apologized again. But I told him if he wanted to make things right, he needed to share the results with everyone who had heard his accusations. His family, his friends, everyone at that barbecue who had clapped when he called me a liar. He said he would. But Caroline went ballistic. She refused to believe the results. She even claimed they could be faked. David, who had been silent through most of this, finally snapped. He told Caroline that she was being insane, that she had made everyone's lives miserable for decades, and that he wasn't going to let her do the same to Nathan. The fight escalated quickly, and when Nathan left his childhood home that night, his dad told him he was proud of him. His mom told him he was dead to her. Then, things got even worse. 3 days later, someone keyed the word liar into my parents' mailbox. We don't have proof that it was anyone from Nathan's family, but the timing couldn't be ignored. My dad filed a police report and set up a camera on the porch. Where does that leave me now? Nathan and I are not together. I don't know if we ever will be again. He still comes over every day to see Ada. He's good with her. He's patient, loving, and completely smitten with her. I see glimpses of the person I fell for before everything went wrong. But I can't forget what he did. I can't forget the way he humiliated me, the way his family destroyed my reputation. Ada doesn't know any of this. She doesn't know her grandmother thinks she's not legitimate. She doesn't know her father accused me of cheating in front of 50 people. She doesn't know about the group chat or the keyed cars or the screaming fights. All she knows is that she's loved, and she's safe. And that's all that matters to me now. I'm going to make sure she knows the truth when she's old enough to understand. I'll have the receipts, messages, posts, DNA results, to prove it. And when she asks about her father, I'll tell her that I stood up for myself, for her, and for the family I want to build, no matter what Nathan or his family tries to say. Thank you to everyone who's followed this journey with me. You've been my support system when I didn't know where else to turn. This is the last update. I'm taking it one day at a time, focusing on my daughter and building the life I deserve. The days since Ada was born have been a whirlwind of emotions. I've been focused on her, feeding her, holding her, watching her grow, because she's the one good thing that came out of all this chaos. Holding her in my arms has been the only thing that's kept me grounded. In a way, she's given me the strength to keep going, even when everything else feels like it's falling apart. Nathan still texts me every day, asking when we can talk. He says he wants to be part of Ada's life, that he wants to make things right. But his actions still don't match his words. He still hasn't publicly corrected anything. He hasn't stood up to his family or apologized for what he did. He's hoping I'll just forgive him, but I'm not that naive anymore. I can't pretend that everything is fine when nothing has really changed. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, and I've come to a conclusion. I'm not going to allow anyone to control my narrative anymore. I won't be the villain in this story. Nathan and his family tried to paint me as someone I'm not, but the truth is out there. I have the receipts, I have the DNA test, and I have the strength to keep moving forward for Ada's sake. I'll never forget the humiliation of that barbecue, the accusations, the lies, and the cruelty from Nathan's family. But I also won't forget the moments where I stood up for myself, where I chose not to let their toxicity define me. Ada deserves to grow up knowing she was wanted, loved, and believed in from the moment she was born. I won't let Nathan or anyone else take that from her. For now, I'm focused on healing, on being the best mother I can be, and on giving Ada a life free of the chaos that her father's family tried to bring into it. What happens with Nathan? I don't know. But I know I'll make sure Ada grows up knowing the truth, about her father, about me, and about the strength it took to rise above everything that tried to tear us down. This is the last update. I'm moving forward, and nothing is going to hold me back. Thank you for watching the video, like it if you watched the video to the end and don't forget to subscribe. Have a nice day.